Barbecue Tricks. This is our little case study today in how to make a really fantastic low and slow barbecue smoked brisket. It's big time beef. This one about a 6.5 pound brisket, some point and some mainly flat. And you see, you got to have a charcoal smoker like this to do it up right. We got some water pan in there, with just some little bit of water in there, and the charcoal is fired up. So we put the brisket right on there after seasoning it with a basic barbecue rub and rubbing it down the night before. And I actually covered the fat side here and put it in the refrigerator for an overnight rest, at least 4 hours, preferably 8. You can, the bigger the better. Probably really let it kind of cure in there. Then about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, we put it on the smoker. It's going to be a long day of just kind of tending the fire. We've got the brisket here fat side up to allow the fat to kind of melt down. And you can see the fire is pretty much raging here. It's looking good. Full chimney, and I mixed about 70% hardwood lump charcoal with about 30% charcoal briquettes. Actually used a Kingsford with hickory in it. And then we throw some chips on that smoker as well, using that little door. You don't want to open up the dome very much. Open up that dome as little as possible, but use this little side door. Every time you open up the top dome, they say you lose about 15 minutes of cooking time. So it'll have to extend your cooking time. But you want to watch for some good smoke coming out, just like we have here. And you can add some smoking chips through that little side door about every 45 minutes or whenever you see the smoke go down. We soak the wood chips in some water for at least 45 minutes. And you see we're using an oak barrel, Jack Daniel's barrel chip, which gives it a little cool little flavor. But oak is not necessarily typical for brisket. A lot of times you use mesquite, but we thought we'd try something different. And we have some hickory in the charcoal, so a little mix of flavors here. We're using a Brinkman Gourmet charcoal smoker. And again, I mixed the charcoals just to try something a little bit different. It's going to take a bunch of hours. It's going to cook for a while. And about 3/4 of the way through, it's down to the last couple hours, you're going to want to wrap up the brisket tight in tinfoil. And some say that at this point you can take it off and finish it off in the oven. I think Cook's Illustrated says that. And you could, but that way it's not too low and slow. Wrap it up real tight there in the foil. Let it cook for a few more hours until you get a smaller brisket, and this thermometer slides right in. Really break down. Once the temperature gets up over 180, the collagen in the meat starts really breaking down. When it gets to over 200, about 207 to 210, that's done. I know that seems high for a lot of people, but it's not like a steak kind of tender. A barbecue tender with brisket has got to be over 207 degrees, and even let it rest and it'll come up to room temperature. I actually put a little bit more sauce on here, and a little bit of sauce on there as a finishing touch, and put the lid back in for a couple of minutes, and then took it off, just to add a little extra layer of barbecue flavor, because I'm a fan of sauce. You want to find all the details of the timing. This was a 6.5 pound brisket, at least 8 hours of cook time. You can log on to barbecuetricks.com. Use keyword brisket. One way to rest things, if you're running ahead of schedule, you can put it in a cooler wrapped up in towels like we did here with some ribs. And actually, I got some of these large paper trash compactor bags, which are kind of sealed with plastic in the middle. And these work great to wrap either ribs or a brisket as well if you've got some time to just let it sit and you want to keep it warm for an extended period of time, over an hour or two. So we finished it off a little bit on the smoker, put a little bit of barbecue sauce on there, and then we pulled it off. Time to carve. Interesting thing about the brisket is there is a point portion on the top of the brisket as well as the flat, and the runs different directions. So you'll see when I cut it here, it's not necessarily cutting that upper left-hand portion of the meat right, because that's part of the point, and it's running in a different grain direction. But you try and cut it pencil-thin slices, if you can, and go thicker if you have to. And that's about all there is to it. Perfect low and slow smoked barbecue brisket. And that red tint that you're seeing on the meat is the smoke ring. And that is a good thing. Very good thing. You want the details on making this, the spice rub and some of the step-by-step details, go to barbecuetricks.com. Use keyword brisket to get the information on it.